Welcome to the Wellbeing Wednesday livecast. My name is Dr Ruth Mary Allen. For those that don't know me, I'm an executive and family coach, motivational speaker and trainer. I'm a certified brain health professional and trainer, high performance coach and havening practitioner, and I also am a trauma coach. And I am here today to talk about neurodiversity and how we can leverage the power of neurodiversity in the workplace. And this has become a really hot topic for big corporations, primarily because they want to show that they are demonstrating inclusivity and diversity in their workplace from a recruitment perspective. But it's so much more than that. Neurodiversity is so much more than that. And it's often, when we talk about inclusivity and diversity, is focusing on the people that we as a workplace want to include who are considered less than normal. And this may come as a shock to you, but we've somehow created these boxes in our language, in the way that we look at people, by saying, okay, well, you have a disability, whether that's cognitively or physically, that is not what I have as the average person, and therefore I'm going to put you in this box of being called disabled, or I'm going to put you in this box of being called neurodiverse. The thing is, we are all diverse. We all, every single one of us, has a unique brain. Some of us are on one end of the spectrum of optimal brain health and getting the best out of their engine of life, and others people are on the other end of the spectrum and really not getting the best out of their engine of life. And we know from looking at people who are in senior management positions that they can be incredibly neurodiverse. Many CEOs have ADD because they're great at being creative. They're great at coming up with new ideas. They're great at inspiring people. And they're great at leading as a consequence because they can come up with this fantastic vision. And they leverage their greatness. They leverage the power of their neurodiversity that they possess to get the best out of not only themselves, but their team and the best out of the company. That doesn't mean they're less than someone else. It doesn't mean they need to be put in a different bucket necessarily. And so it's really important when we look at neurodiversity in the workplace, if we're using it as a recruitment tool, if we're using it as a publicity tool to demonstrate we're inclusive and we're diverse, which is quite a dangerous thing to do, I think, personally, because it's very superficial. It's a tick box exercise. But if we delve deeper, if we dive deeper beneath the tick box exercises that are often happening to demonstrate inclusivity and diversity, and really look at the people that we want in the organisation and how we can leverage the power of the people you've got, then you can really build high-performing teams and a high-performing business. But that starts with building and creating high-performing brains. And I'm not saying that we exclude people, but we must include everybody in the context of brain health And some people who could be incredibly neurodiverse, let's go back to my example of having ADD, can be incredibly effective. Yet another person with ADD could be incredibly ineffective. They've got the same label, they both have ADD, but they both have different performances or performance outputs. And that can depend on the type of work you give them, the type of environment that they're in, the type of labels they've grown up with, their past environment that has created the behaviours that they adopt now, the way in which you treat them in the workplace, whether you treat them as different, whether you treat them as unique, whether you're looking to put them in a box or put them on a pedestal. It's very different. So from a neurodiversity perspective, it isn't just about that tick box exercise to say, yes, we're inclusive, or no, we haven't got the right number of people who are labelled as neurodiverse, but looking at your whole organisation and understanding the brain power that you possess within your organisation, and understand how you can optimize the brain power within your organization and optimize the performance of those brains within the organization. And you'll notice the language I use there is brains, because we all have a brain and we all deserve the right to get the best out of our unique brain, irrespective of what brain type we have. Now I want to go on to brain types, because when we talk about neurodiversity, we are typically assigning a label to a person. They could be labelled as autistic, they could be labelled as having Asperger's, they could be labelled as having ADD, they could be labelled as having a depression, they could be labelled as having a chronic stress, they could be labelled as having severe anxiety, they could be labelled in all sorts of different ways. But it's just a label. And some people are really attached to the labels that the medical profession have given them. And I see this with some of the stories that I have on my podcast and show, Brain Health Unchaining Your Pain, and particularly the one with Rex Miller, who talks about the labels that his children were assigned by the medical system. And the labels were wrong, because medicine doesn't always correctly diagnose people. Often it treats the symptom, doesn't treat the root cause. So what would you do as a workplace if your whole focus is on being inclusive of certain criteria of people that fall within this neurodiverse box that you've created, if those people actually are incorrectly diagnosed with that condition? What do you do then? Does that mean you're less inclusive? Does that mean you're less diverse? So it's a really, really sensitive topic, because you're focusing on labelling people in the context of their brain health, and putting some people in one bucket and saying you're different, and putting other people in a bucket and saying you're normal. And who are we to define what normal is in the context of brain health? Because there really isn't a normal, but there is an optimal. And most people, we know from research that 51% of Americans will suffer with a mental health issue at some point in their life. So it's more normal to be not normal than it is to be normal. So why are we creating a bucket? Why are we not just looking at the uniqueness of the individuals and the and the experience and the benefits that their uniqueness will bring to your organisation, and better understanding that in the context of their brain function, rather than labelling and putting people in the bucket. And I'll give you an example. There's been a big driver to get more women at senior positions in the workplace, particularly by big corporations. They want to be seen as being more inclusive and more diverse, and making sure they're getting women at exec levels, which is great to make sure that we have that inclusivity within the workplace, and we're not penalising people because they are a different race, gender, nationality to others, but we're really focusing on the attributes, the merits that they bring to the workplace to support the business, providing it isn't positively biasing that group to get to another level in the business, and disadvantaging the quote unquote normal group, of whatever the hell normal is, the normal group of people, or the non-ism group of people in your organisation, disadvantaging them and reducing their motivation, reducing their morale, reducing their desire to perform at their best, because suddenly they are less than. Suddenly they're less important than this group of people that you've created in the workplace. And it's a really, really dangerous thing, in my view, to do, to put people in all of these little buckets, because you have to manage these buckets as a business rather than focusing on managing your people and looking at the uniqueness of your people and getting the best out of your people. And you know, if we take it at the lowest level as a family, it's really important that we cater for our family members if they are struggling, but we can all be struggling and in some level with different things. So I'll take my my brain type, for example. I have overactive basal ganglia, so I have overactive anxiety regions in my brain. I can get very anxious, and I can have lots of negative thoughts, and I find it difficult to communicate my anxiety because it can be overwhelming to me, and it's important, because of the way in which my brain functions, that I work in a quiet place, not surrounded by loads of people, because I get so distracted by the tiniest bit of noise distracts me and stops me from performing at my best. So when I went to work in the corporate world and got put into this horrific group environment where everybody was working on the same floor plane, it was like a call center, it's just dreadful. It was really difficult for me to focus and for me to perform at my best, because the environment wasn't suited to my brain type. But who in industry, who in the senior management level takes the time to look at the brain types that you already have within your organisation, to assess the types of brains that you have within the organisation, to understand whether you're getting the best out of the brains within your organisation, to understand their performance levels, to understand whether you're optimising their performance levels for those individuals. And it may be that you need to change the way in which you work, especially if you are focused on recruiting people who are quote unquote neurodiverse, because they're not necessarily going to be able to work in the environment that you currently have. And so you personally as a business We'll have to make cultural changes. We'll have to make organisational changes. We'll have to make physical changes to the workplace. We'll have to make changes in terms of your processes and procedures. You'll have to make changes in terms of the equipment you provide to accommodate these people. And that's absolutely right. It's absolutely right that organisations get the best out of their people. But are those organisations that are doing this tick box exercise to say, yes, we are neurodiverse, yes, we're inclusive, yes, we're accommodating these people? Are you looking at the opportunities to get the best out of the people that you're recruiting? Are you looking at the opportunities to get the best out of the people you have in the context of their unique brain? Or are you simply using it as a publicity stunt to demonstrate that you're doing more than the next person who's a competitor to you? So my challenge to businesses out there, my challenge to organisations out there is to understand, to take the time to connect, to take the time to understand the performance of the brains that run your organisation, to take the time to understand the performance of the brains that manage your organisation, to take the time to understand the performance of the brains that deliver the outputs that are necessary for you to make money within your organisation. And until businesses, until organisations truly take the time to optimise, to understand and optimise the brains within their organisation, they are not being inclusive from a neurodiversity perspective. Now, we within the work I do, from coaching people from a brain power and performance perspective, take the time to look at the brain power and performance of the people that I serve, of the clients that I have, of the people that are struggling, irrespective of what label they have been given. Take the time to see how they can get the best out of their unique engine of life. And for some people who have been given a label that may or may not be incorrect, saying that, you can reduce the symptoms associated with the condition you've been labelled with, or completely remove the symptoms of the label that you've been associated with, can in itself be quite traumatic for people, because they themselves have taken on that identity. They themselves have taken on the label of being ADD, for example, or they've taken on the label of having Asperger's or autism. And that then drives sometimes, not all the time, sometimes the behaviours, or for some people, the excuses to behave the way in which they do. And that then limits their potential, because they have already put themselves in a less than bucket. They've already decided this label, and often the neurodiversity labels have the word disorder at the end. Who the hell decided it was a disorder when we all have the power to leverage our own unique brain in such a unique way that we can be extraordinary, whatever label we have? Is I often have this disorder label assigned to them, like attention deficit disorder, where in actual fact it can be a gift. And so the challenge when we talk about neurodiversity is to not look at it as a I'm going to include these people who I may have labelled less than, but say, okay, everyone has diversity from a brain function perspective. How can I be inclusive of that diversity, and how can I help everyone, not just some, everyone, and there is no bucket there, everyone within the organisation to get the best out of their brain, which is their engine of life. And that is what we intend to do, and that is what we support our clients in doing. If you really want to find out more about how we can help you personally and your organisation get the best out of the brains in your organisation, and leverage the power that you have within your organisation, and leverage the power of the brains that you are bringing into your organisation, then please do connect with us to find out more. You can find out more on my website, which is ruthmaryallen.com. And you can also find out more looking at the banner below through the wellbeingwarrioracademy.com. And if you want to learn more about the guests I've had on my show, Brain Health Unchaining Your Pain, and the complexity of discovering what is truly going on inside someone's brain and unraveling the root cause of someone's brain health problems or brain struggles where their brain function is not optimal, then please go to my website, ruthmaryallen.com/show, to find out more about the show, or visit winjet.com/archive/brain health to see all of the episodes of my show, Brain Health Unchaining Your Pain. It is Wellbeing Wednesday today. We're talking about how can you really leverage the power of neurodiversity in the workplace. And it really starts with getting the best out of the brains within your organisation, understanding what types of brains you have within your organisation, understanding how they are performing and optimising the brain power performance of the people that you have and the people that you're bringing in. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I look forward to connecting with you soon.